In this video, you'll witness me showcasing one of my students' transformations going through my entire coaching process. In only several weeks, we took them from beginner to advanced. We took them through everything from philosophy, theology, science, ultimately building out an apologetic that is ironclad. So if you're somebody who's been wanting to know how to get to the next level for themselves, wherever you're at, this video will be able to help you. So stick around, get your notes out. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. All right, guys, welcome back to another segment of Perspective Shifts. Today, I have my bro here, RJ, who is somebody who has actually gone through my entire full-length course, being a part of the community. It's awesome. He's here to just kind of share what his experience has been like. So I don't want to introduce him. He's got his own introduction here. RJ, go ahead. Tell everybody who you are, what's going on with you, brother.
Yeah, what's good, everyone? My name is RJ Tausili. I'm 23. I actually just recently got a position as the youth director at Victory Church in Graham, Washington. So yeah, that's new. It's fun. But yeah, so this past year, a little over a year now, I've been spending a lot of time going deeper in my faith and asking some questions that I never felt like I was free to ask. And so did a lot of studying on my own, did a lot of trying to find answers. And I mean, like Tim talks about a lot, answers-based apologetics. And I fell in love with that, looking for answers. And it's almost like for lack of better words, like a high that you chase, like, trying to find answers to these objections. And it's fun. And so recently I want to say probably March or so is when we started working together. And yeah, that's just a little bit about me before the course.
Yeah, brother. Yeah, man. And it's been so good to see you here. And pretty much what I want to show everybody today and you guys watching is, RJ was somebody who had been following me for a little bit. And, we just had a kind of a spontaneous interaction and it was like, hey, this might be a good next step for you. So everyone kind of sees I have the Transcending Answers Academy where I take you through a customized process with a bunch of other people involved as well. But RJ, you actually went above and beyond. You were a part of that process, but you were also a part of my one-to-one process as well. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So initially, when I first heard of Tim, it was through Inspiring Philosophy, and you guys were reviewing your Jubilee episode, and I was very intrigued because I remember you went up there first. And one thing that I love, I'm from Federal Way, so it's a very diverse area, and so I love when I see younger people of color and people that bring some more life to the environment. I think I grew up thinking church was just for a bunch of older white people. And so, going to going to the church that I was going to in high school, I realized that it's a lot more than that. So seeing you up there was really inspiring for me because I'm like, oh, I don't have to be lame and be in this kind of sphere. You feel what I'm saying? So
100%.
seeing that and, hearing about your one-on-one coaching, I was very intrigued because I did want to go deeper in really you actually said it like this: loving God with your mind. And I think that was such a beautiful way that you put it, and that's what I wanted to do. And so meeting with you, we kind of went over what it would look like. And one thing I really admired about you was it was what our first call, it was let's see if this is for you. It's not let me pitch to you and see if you want it. It's like, no, let's both analyze where I'm at in my life and see, is this beneficial for the both of us? And is this beneficial for me? It wasn't like, let me sell you something. It was like, let's see if this is going to be good for you. So just your humility going into that was very admirable. And so you initially like won my trust a little bit, like, okay, he's not just trying to get my money kind of thing. And so, yeah. And so obviously one-on-one coaching is very, it's a lot more helpful than, some videos and stuff. So yeah, I was excited to get into that for sure.
Man, that's totally awesome to hear. I know, man. It is cool to see diversity rising up currently right now. I think that a big shift that is happening in especially the online space because of there's more reach when it comes to apologetics. Because I mean, we know I spent so much time on the very niche, highbrow, ivory tower level philosophy of religion sphere. and it's just a bunch of it's a bunch of white people. I mean, literally, it is, and it's like no shade on them or anything like that, but it's out of touch with the average person, right? And so that's what I aim to do is I aim to open this up for the average person to be able to come through and do that. And I love how you mentioned the answers based apologetics. And yeah, guys, like legitimately, many of us, I mean, I started on that journey as well. We start on this journey of I just need to chase what I call an epiphany high. The more epiphanies that I can stack up about my faith, and pretty much I just define an epiphany as like something some new insight that you are gaining that makes you feel like, oh wow, like I'm getting a shot of dopamine or maybe even a shot of adrenaline from hearing this makes me feel really good. I'm getting a download of a lot of happy chemicals because some apologist, some theologian, some Christian content creator said something about the faith, or gave an answer for what I would could perceive as a hard problem that I've never heard of for the first time. And that's where a lot of people end up, but then they wonder like, well, how many of these answers do I got to stack up
Yeah.
before I finally get to the point that I want? Because I mean, for you right now, bro, you are being put in a position of leadership. And we as Christians, we're not called to just sit by ourselves, isolated from community, not using the things that we learn, not using our gifts, but we're actually eventually, we are supposed to be teachers. What's the whole point of making a disciple, right? If you can't teach them what Christ said, right? And so a lot of us spend time going, I'm going to equip myself, and then I'll go out and I'll do what I need to do for the kingdom. But if you spend all your time equipping by stacking up answers, you never actually get to the root of why you even needing all these answers in the first place. So let's dive into where you were at in that point. You were already familiar with apologetics when I met you. Like you weren't some dummy like I've never done anything before. Like you were already in the space. But tell everybody about kind of what your habits and kind of what your study practices were prior to going through and with the coaching.
Yeah, so it looked like a few different things. Number one, it was whatever was intriguing for me. So, like, if there was a topic, like, for example, the Trinity was a huge one for me. And I just fell in love with reading the different church fathers, reading different philosophers and how they explain it. Um, and yeah, it was just a lot of looking at a bunch of different opinions and kind of trying to figure out which one makes most sense to me, which really is what you taught me. But what you taught me was a methodology of how to figure out which perspective is most likely to be correct versus just looking at all the opinions and then which one feels the best to me. And I think that was the biggest thing that that shifted was now I have a, like I said, methodology of saying, okay, here are all the views on the table. Which one's most probable, and I'm gonna stick with that one. Versus just let's look at all the things and whatever one makes most sense, kind of arbitrarily or in my limited understanding. I'm gonna go with that. So I would say that for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, we did a real deep dive into epistemology. Have you ever studied epistemology prior to coming on?
I had I had heard of it, and one of my friends from a he referred me an epistemology book, but I didn't know what the heck I was reading. Like I didn't even really understand what epistemology really was. So
Yeah.
you were definitely the first person that actually introduced me and helped me understand it. And I'll say that about the coaching. It's like you can read a book, but it's especially like the one you had me read. It was like it's not really a intro level, like it feels like you're reading a different language. That's what it feels like. And so having someone like you who speaks that language be able to dumb it down for me and interpret it for me, and then eventually you start to pick up on the lingo, start to understand the vocabulary, and then I can now read those things and it makes sense. But I had heard of it, but you were the one that like made it make sense to me and then kind of brought me up to be able to have it make sense, without you having to be there all the time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And just for everyone's context here, there were so many moments where as RJ was going through the initial weeks of our coaching, all right, I remember, bro, you were like, okay, yeah, like this stuff, this is some high level stuffs, I can see the relevance here, but you were also like, where's this going, bro? You're like, what are we doing here? Right. And,
Right.
and 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 a lot of people, have that reaction because there's knowing what to say and what to think, and then there's knowing how to say what you're saying because you know how to think. And what I was doing with RJ in the initial stages was I kind of think of the classic Karate Kid scene where he's taking that jacket off, he's painting that
Yeah.
fence, and he's like, "What are we doing, bro?" And then all of a sudden he realizes, oh, wait a minute, like he's all like, "Paint the fence, do this and that," and he's going, "Wait a minute, what I've been learning this whole time, I've actually been doing that training." And so people in the beginning, they're like, "Dude, just give me the answer, bro. Like, if you could just tell me how to solve the problem of divine hiddenness, problem of evil, Old Testament violence, bro, I'll be good, man." I actually had somebody recently reach out to me that was like, I was trying to explore with them. I'm like, yeah, you have this question. This person had a particular problem. They wanted to witness to somebody who had all these objections. And they weren't good objections, but they're objections you have when you haven't studied. And so he was like coming to me going, hey, how should I reach this guy? And I was asking him questions like, okay, well, why do you not feel like you can help walk this guy through this? And the guy was like, yeah, that's cool and everything, but just give me the answer, bro. Like, just give me that high, bro. I just want to get that. Come on, give me an answer. That's what it seems like. Is like, just give me my hit, right, and I'll be on my way, right. It's called being an answer junkie, right, and that's not what we want, right. And so with you, bro, my whole goal was, no, we're gonna get you out of this because now, and I know you can talk on this, it's like you see the world differently. When people say things, when people make arguments, you see it in a completely different light. It kind of explain what it was like when you finally first came to that realization of what everything you were doing added up to. Kind of talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, there was like a series of epiphanies of like, oh, that's why I'm reading this. Oh, that's why I was doing that. So, but I would say like towards the end, um, I guess it was just living life, and like obviously we had been talking so much, and I'm reading these things, and we're having not just our one-on-one meetings, but then our the group calls that we have, um, and it's just being like instilled in my brain, and then I'm having conversations with friends, and it's just the same principles that we went over. I'm starting to naturally implement in my conversations with my friends. So whether it's like dumb debates about which quarterback is better, or about TV shows or whatever, like you start to think like, well, my hypothesis is simpler than yours. So it's like it's like a bunch of this very nerdy things that I can't say in a conversation with a friend because they're gonna be like, bro, what? Like, who cares? Like, I'm right, you're wrong. Um, it was one of those things where I'm like, I feel like I know how to think, and it's so weird. Like, if I had to explain what I got from you coaching me, it's like I learned how to think and how to think right. And it sounds so silly, but it's like it's true. Like everything that I like, again, relationships that I have, if something happens between me and my friend, because of us being human in our own emotion, we can jump to conclusions and things. But now it's like, okay, let's take a step back and look at all the data we have. They didn't reply to my text. Well, why didn't they reply to my text? Is it that they are busy, or is it that they're mad at me for this thing and now they're ignoring me? And it's like you're adding all these complexities to ultimately your hypothesis, and it's like that decreases the probability. So it's like very applicable in practical things that obviously come up in life, and it's because of the principles and stuff that we learn that I'm able to just have better relationships and just better thinking in general.
I love what you're hitting on, man. You're saying, hey, we can get really abstract when we look at grand theories of reality. You know what I'm saying? Where we talk about theism, naturalism, all these other theories that we could be comparing, where we're going, okay, we're trying to explain reality at a grand level. You're saying, dude, these are principles of reasoning across the board. And they don't just apply in ultra niche, nerdy, dorky philosophical context. No, they actually apply in ordinary everyday reason. Actually, I would argue, right, that the this is the hope of the common sense philosopher, right? Is that uh, this reasoning would be made common sense. This reasoning would be a guide for you. And so I love that you mentioned that it doesn't just have these aspects. It's not just an intellectual exercise. It actually is shaping you as a person holistically. I love that you mentioned that. No, I didn't pull any punches with you, man. I had you read some high level stuff. So let's kind of jump into some of the stuff that we went over. One, I want to ask you, you weren't really expecting to go that deep on certain things, were you?
No, definitely not. I thought it was going to be more so like we have a question and we're going to look at different answers to the question. That's kind of how I thought it would be. But no, it's like we built a foundation. And
Mm-hmm.
initially, like certain things don't make sense. And you're like, well, why am I reading this thing about science? And it's talking about all these science things. And I'm like, I don't know anything about science. And it's like, why am I even reading science when we're supposed to be learning about philosophy? So I was confused. But again, it's like everything starts to make sense as after we built the foundation and then we read that is God the best explanation of things? That
Yes,
book.
sir.
And then I started to see, oh, this is why I read this because now he's talking about it and using it
Mm-hmm.
to strengthen his argument. So yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot at first, and I was definitely overwhelmed. But again, that's why the one-on-one part is so important because I knew that I wasn't alone, and I had someone who, and you knew like that's a lot for me, and you knew it was a lot at once, and so you were able to in our calls like kind of slow things down a little bit
Exactly.
and help with that. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. There's accommodation for the journey. Everyone moves at a certain pace. I remember I told you at the beginning. I was like, hey, listen, I'm not just about getting through the weeks. I'm about doing as much as it takes to build on what we're doing. Because that's the last thing that you want is to study a lot and then forget it all, right? And not see how it connects to everything else you are. And so, in a sense, right, we went over a lot of God's existence stuff. We went over a lot of epistemology stuff. We went over some philosophy of science stuff. What aspect or aspects of the community plus the coaching did you find to be the most helpful or most interesting? Like, were there certain modules? Were there certain parts along the way? Like, what'd you like? Because we have the conversational aspect, we have the objection handling aspect, we have the building the foundations aspect, reading, all that stuff. What would you say that was for you going through that process? What stuck out?
Hmm, man, I would definitely say probably just our one-on-one calls. I think that was the most helpful because I mean, and I told you this, like if I don't have a directive on here, I want you to read this. These are the key points I want you to get. I'm gonna narrow down on every tiny little thing and ask a bunch of questions,
Yep.
and I can't move on until I get it. So I would definitely say just you helping, like widen the scope and like making me take a step back and hey, don't focus on every single little thing. Focus on this, and this, and then just focus on those things. So I would definitely say having your just guidance and because the thing is you're not just telling me to read something. There's things that you want me to get from the thing you're having me read. And so having that and be like, RJ, just focus on X, Y, and Z. Everything else, don't even worry about it. Because I would text you and be like, hey, is this important?
Yep.
Because I'm tripping. So I need to understand this. But you're like, no, don't worry about that. So that was the biggest thing for me because I will hone in on every tiny little thing. So that was definitely really big for me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's super big on emphasis because there's so much to read out there. There's so many opinions, there's so many thoughts out there. And I would say, doing this for a little over a decade, you start to see what is noise and what actually engenders real change in your journey. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want you to feel like you were just getting information. I wanted to put you on a path of transformation. So the work I assigned you, right? It was like, no, it's kind of like you have your guardrails. No, you go down this path. You don't go down this path. And so it's the certainty of implementation, right? In reading the right material. I mean, literally, people. I mean, you can spend just years trying to figure out what the heck am I supposed to read or study. I remember so many times along the way where, for myself, I would be like, man, this person over here says. I remember I grew up in a fundamentalist community, right, when I was young, and I would always hear, oh, don't listen to these liberal scholars, and everyone who wasn't liberal, like everyone who was labeled liberal because they just didn't agree with like their certain viewpoint. Like liberal was
Yeah.
just a pejorative. Like don't read NT right. Being called NT wrong, things like that. No, don't read Michael Heiser. He's got weird views. Oh, this Christian over here, they reject the rapture. I grew up like that. And so a lot of the times you're going, well, wait a minute. Okay, who has ideas that will help me and who has ideas that won't help me? And a lot of people are in a position, right? Like where you were prior to that, where you were on YouTube, just on social media, subscribing and watching kind of Christian content creators, et cetera, and so forth, give these answers, give these talks. But then there was this gap between, well, how do I know what they're saying is actually like holds any weight? How do I know the weight of what they're saying? How do I know what they're saying is truth tracking? I mean, even for myself now, I remember and you might be going through this as well. When I used to watch like Christian debates, I like Christian versus atheist debates, Christian versus Muslim debates, and I remember I'd be like not knowing all of the subject matter, so I would just be hoping that the Christian would do his job. And I was just going off of feelings, right? I'd be like, okay, guys. I'm like, all right, William Lane Craig, I'm strapping in, bro. Like, I remember I watched the famous William Lane Craig Sean Carroll debate where, there's mixed opinions on who won that debate. I remember being like, okay, Craig, don't disappoint me, bro. Like, and I was focused on, I put all of my hope and all of my weight on Craig's thinking. Fast forward to now, right? This is where I mean by like you're probably in this situation where when I hear Christians talk, I mean, I'll just sit back and I'll be like, I don't even know if I agree with any of them, right?
Mhm.
During this debate. And I will literally be tracking. I'll be like, okay, the Christian, I mean, he made a good point there. I wouldn't really say it like that. Okay, well, his opponent, I mean, he made a really bad point, but I mean, it wasn't too much worse than the point that the Christian made. And you're able to sit back and evaluate things for yourself. And so what I found really empowering was now when I watch a debate, I'm not hoping that the Christian side wins because I need them to argue for me. I know how to argue myself. I know how to come to true beliefs myself. I know how to go down the journey. I have the methodology and tools and process to do that. And so I don't need to rely on that. I hope the Christian side, does well, but a bad argument's a bad argument, no matter who's making it. So talk about. I want you to delve a bit into what it was like graduating the one-to-one process. You talked a bit about where you were at prior and what it was like during. Where are you at now? And that's very open-ended. So go ahead, fill that in how you want.
Yeah, so it's actually funny. Right when we ended our coaching is pretty much right when I got the position offer at the church I'm at right now. And so it felt very intentional because, me and the pastor of the church that I'm working at now, he's been my mentor for like 7 years now. So it's always been kind of a when's it going to happen kind of thing. Because, of course,
Sure.
if he's spiritual father to me, mentor to me, I obviously want to serve under him. He wants me to serve under him. So it's kind of like a matter of when. And so I really felt like our coaching call, I know we talk a lot about, the intellectual side of things, but to get a little spiritual, I really do believe that God appointed that time for us and for me to learn from you. Um, and then when that was over, it was time to step into a new season. And so I definitely think that working with you opened my eyes to have so much more grace for people because I learned so much to where now it's like I understand that there's so much that I still don't know, but I put in all this work to learn what I do know, and there's so many other people that haven't done none of that. And so it gives you this grace for people because the church is in a state right now where there's a lot of division, there's a lot of confusion, and I think our time just for the spiritual side really gave me a lot more patience and love for people that don't have the same burden that we do to really test our beliefs and pursue the Lord intellectually. And then obviously on the intellectual side of things, I think I just I'm a lot more open to other beliefs, and I'm not scared to have my beliefs tested. I think that's
Mm,
ultimately the biggest thing. Um, like for example,
mm.
the with the Trinity, um, the monarchical view was always a little intimidating to me, just because it sounds so different from what I learned and grew up hearing. Um, but I'm just where I'm at now, and this kind of goes with like the Bayesian
Mm.
approach. Where I am now, I'm monarchical, but who knows if I hear something and new evidence comes, I'm
Exactly,
completely
bro.
fine with changing. And
Updating.
exactly it's a much more humble approach to just life in general. Like I'm okay with being wrong, and I think that's the most beautiful thing that I've learned from what we went through is like, we're not too arrogant to say we know everything. And we're not going to say that we know for certain, but we're going to say it's the most probable. I believe it's the most probable explanation. And until more data comes that will convince me otherwise, then I'm going to stick with it. But if more data does come, then cool. I'm fine with changing. I have no problem. I'm just going to go where the evidence takes me. And I think that's the biggest thing. And it gives you peace in knowing, like,
Yes.
you know, God is always revealing himself to you more and more. And what you believe now, you may not believe a year from now, and that's okay. And we just keep it pushing.
Hmm. Dude, I am so proud of you, bro. Dude, yes. That right there. I mean, that's really there are people. Man, there's so many different directions they can go with what you're saying there, man. The what I don't understand is, and you and I have talked about this a little bit, is this movement online where people who are in the middle of their deconstruction document the journey,
Mm,
and then gain a following, and,
yeah.
and 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 are looked at as credible authorities. Like you're in the process of not knowing what you believe. Why are you leading people, right? And the relationship that I'm drawing here between what you're saying is like you're just like, listen, um, I actually have a path. I actually have a set of tools that listen, I know how to error correct if I feel like I've ran into error. And I'm chilling. Like there
Yeah.
are so many people like these deconstructionists who will go their entire lives, decades, not knowing how to do that, not knowing that they can do that, that they have the permission to do that, that they're well within their rational rights to do that. And I love what you talked about because I will tell you, my entire journey up to this point, and it's still going. Uh, my theology is not the same that it was uh, 10 years ago, nor is it the same what it was like 4 years ago. It's
Mm-hmm.
always evolving and changing. And people ask, people like to ask apologies these questions almost like it's a gotcha. Are you, or just Christians in general, to see if they're thoughtful, right? Free thinkers. Oh, are you, have you changed your mind on anything? It's like, yeah, I've changed my mind on plenty of things. I haven't changed my mind that Jesus is God. I haven't changed
Right.
my mind that God exists. Okay, I don't need to change my mind on that. Okay, that's the fundamentals. My fundamentals are secure. And that's exactly what you're talking about, which is like your fundamentals are secure. Everything else, like, okay, like, do I, for example, for me right now, if you were to ask me, hey Tim, where do you land um well, what's a good one that I'm not too sure about yet? Um where do you land on a specific view of the philosophy of mind, let's say? And I'd be like, yeah, I mean, I'm what you would call like an idealist, right? But I'm still ironing out the details of what kind of strand that is. It's not something that keeps me up at night. Um, you know, if you were to ask me, hey Tim, do you know how to read Greek, and what's your opinion on doing Bible studies in Greek? I would say, yeah. I mean, I don't know how to do that yet, but it's not something that keeps me up at night. Hey, what is your metaphysics about objects? Are you a divine conceptualist? An essentialist? Are you a Platonist? I mean, really, I'm still kind of exploring what kind of where I land on that. I know where I don't lean on. I know where I do lean on, but it doesn't really keep me up at night. And I could change my. I could just keep going, right? So, and what I hear you saying is you don't stress about being wrong because you know at the end of the day that what justifies your beliefs are whether or not those beliefs are probable, right? Given the
Yeah.
analysis that you've made. Um, and what about that process makes you not stress? Like what specifically about it, makes you just kind of sit back and not, have it just be stuck in the back of your mind and something that you dream about and think about all day? Like what about it is not stressful?
Yeah, I think it's two things. Number one is I'm not saying that I can't be wrong. I'm saying that with the evidence that I've seen, I'm saying that what I hold to is what I think is the most probable because of X, Y, and Z reason. And then the second thing is, like I said, I can change my belief. Like it's fine. Like I'm not like too prideful or arrogant to say that I can be wrong. I've been wrong about so many things already. Who knows? I'm probably wrong about some stuff now. So it's a combination of those two, and it's just a very humble way to approach it. And I think I don't ever want to be arrogant enough to think that I am right about everything, because everybody probably thinks that a little bit. So one of us is wrong, and we're probably all wrong. That's really what it is. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
definitely those two things. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I remember, man, when you came in, you were the apologetics you were familiar with. You were familiar with the kind of Islamic debate, but there was another side of this that you weren't too familiar with in the beginning, which was the debate around some of the more general philosophical aspects, like the existence of God, theory comparison, some epistemology stuff, philosophy of science stuff. Let me ask you, what was your view of how strong the case for God's existence was prior before you came in versus after?
Yeah. Oh man. It would completely change. Like my confidence in God was strictly from my personal experience. And I've heard some like the contingency argument. I've heard that before and it made sense, sure, but like, oh yeah, I don't really know how, someone could go against it. But I also think learning the arguments against the arguments for God even strengthened my faith more because I wasn't convinced by them. And then also just hearing all the other arguments and um, really understanding like hypotheses and like what makes one hypothesis more probable than another. Just man, there's just a lot. There's a lot, and so after everything that I've learned, I'm so much more confident in the existence of a God. And then obviously from there, narrowing down um, the other things to obviously lead to Christianity. If I had to rate it like a scale from 1 to 10, I would say probably in the beginning it was 4, like probably like a 4, Um, now it's probably like a 8, 9, 9.5. Like I'm almost like the likelihood from my perspective is very low that God doesn't exist. But again, I could be wrong, and so like I'm open to hearing other perspectives and other evidences. But as of now, it's pretty high. Um, so yeah.
Brother, man, I love hearing that. That's exactly what it is. This is exactly what this is all about. I know, and we explored some pretty high level arguments. Like when we were talking about the "Is God is the best explanation of things" book. I mean, Felipe Leon. I mean, he doesn't pull any punches in that book. What he talks about, and so as you were kind of going through that book, how did your I really like this question. How did your view of the strength of the other side's arguments change?
Ooh, it changed a lot, because I realized that, and this is what Rasmussen does, is like he almost gets rid of the naturalist versus non-naturalist debate. He's like, no, I could say, sure, I'm a naturalist. And and one thing that he says in one of the chapters is, because Felipe is responding to something that Rasmussen says, maybe you can remind me. And what Felipe does is he starts to switch, he starts to change and modify his hypothesis to respond to Rasmussen's critique. And what Rasmussen says is all you're doing is making your hypothesis more like the theistic hypothesis. It's like you trying to make your hypothesis more probable is just making it more like mine. And so you just don't want to make the final step to say, okay, you're right. So I think that was one of the, like, my favorite parts of that book is like, in order to try to make your stance more probable, you're just going to make it more like mine. And I thought that was so cool. And yeah, it was just Rasmussen, and just his whole approach in that book was just so fun and so nice and loving. And I felt like he went wherever Felipe went and just was like, yeah, sure, we can even say that, but also these things. And it's just like, it was really cool.
Yes, yes, granting as much as you can, for sake of argument, so that you can get someone on the bridge of reason. This idea that, hey, we're all trying to use what we call the light of reason, shining our lights in the dark room, trying to find treasure, each one of us. It should be a collaborative effort, not a competitive effort. We want as many people on this bridge together of reason. And I love this when we talked a lot about this, which is, you know, being able to grant your interlocutor's argument as much as you can, um, and shave off what they think leads to their conclusion, but actually showing that our worldview can actually accommodate what they're putting forth as support for
Yeah.
their worldview. And that's really, really helpful, because at least, you know, what I found is, you know, I could defend my niche pet favorite theologies all day long, but I want someone on the bridge. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, convince someone of monarchical Trinitarian, like you hold a monarchical Trinitarian, like you said, like right now. But imagine you came across somebody who, if if the only way they could get in the kingdom, right, was if they accepted a different model of the Trinity. Are you just gonna be like, nope, I'm not gonna, no, you're gonna grant, and then you're gonna just move them where you can, right?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, this is a scriptural thing. This is very biblical, right? You know, Paul talks about his desire to be all things to all men, right? You know, to the Greek, I am Greek, right? Meeting people where they're at. This is exactly what it looks like in the intellectual space. So I like that. Yeah, man. I mean, this has been really good. Now, I just want to ask you, like, moving forward, because you're in this awesome new youth director position, which is no small deal. How equipped and prepared do you feel for the students who are inevitably going to have questions, who are inevitably going to, you know, want a space to think about the faith? Going through this coaching process, how does that make you feel now?
Oh, so confident. Because again, it's like I was saying, I have positions on things, but I could be wrong. Like it's like the
Hmm.
best approach to anything. It's like you
Hmm.
have no real stake in it. Like obviously, I'm a
Yes.
steward over these students, and so I take that very seriously. Um, but I've thought through these things, and if someone comes and challenges it, I'm going to present the evidence, and I would love to see some evidence that would change my position. And if it does change, I will be the first person to stand in front of all the kids and say, I
Nice.
was wrong. I was 100% wrong, and this is why. And I apologize. I'll be the first one to do that. I have no problem. So,
Nice.
yeah, definitely just, and I appreciate you, Tim, as you have a very humble approach to all of this. And I think this is very helpful, not just for the online keyboard warriors and comment sections, but just for regular people that want to change and grow the kingdom. And I know that's helped me a lot. And walking into this season, it's given me so much confidence to walk in, because I can talk about any question and I don't have any fear or any hesitancy. And so you've played a role in that, in my confidence walking into this new season. So I appreciate you, for real. So thank you.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely, man. Yeah, man. Well, as far as departing words go, uh, would you recommend this to somebody?
Absolutely, absolutely. Only if you're serious about taking your faith serious. You know, you don't want to waste your time if it's not something you. Because I have friends that they just don't really care about this stuff, and that's fine. And that's why, like, God has burdened all of us, right? He says the Holy Spirit gives gifts to those whom He pleases. So He's given a gift to Tim, to me, and this is helpful to operate in our gifts. But maybe your gifting isn't this, and maybe God has something else for you, and that's fine. But likely, if you're watching this, you probably have that gift and have that burden. And so, this would definitely help you, um, again, have a humble approach to theology and really everything intellectual. And that's the best thing that we can have. Like, we want to model our Savior Jesus, and that's what he was. He was humble. And so this course, you know, it's serious, it's intense, but it's rooted in humility and a love for people and the kingdom of God and the lost. And so I would 100% give my stamp of approval on Tim and what he's doing. And I would love to see more people that are in ministry do something like this, because I think the church is lacking in the loving God with your mind. I just love the way you said that, bro. Like, the most important commandment: love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. And that's what we need to do as a church. And I think you are doing a great job equipping um, the kingdom with the ability to do that.
Thank you, brother. That's very high praise in my book. Very honored to hear that, man. Well, brother, is there anything you want to plug for yourself? People want to keep up with you, anything like that?
I just got an Instagram, just my name, boom, right there. You can see on the screen, RJ Tausili.
Gotcha, man. All right, yeah, that'll be linked up. With that being said, brother, thank you so much again for joining me. And everyone, go ahead and just give this a like and a share if you haven't already. Haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Hit it right there. It takes less than 0.2 seconds. With that being said, thank you, RJ, for joining me. See you guys on another one.